Money and Me on Your Money, only on Money FM 89.3.
Good morning. I'm Michelle Martin. Welcome to Money and Me. Have you stopped dead in your tracks when looking for a place for a business school once you realize it's six-figure tuition fee? Do business schools, with their high fees and their drive to recruit the best applicants, exacerbate income inequality? Or can you hope for a place in a great business school regardless of financial situation? What are your options, particularly if you're looking at INSEAD? Since its launch, its campaign for INSEAD, Force for Good, it's embarked on an ambitious drive to move innovation and transform business and society on a global scale. And in support of this overall vision, the school provides more than 100 different types of scholarships to support students from all over the world who require the financial means to pursue their studies at INSEAD. Professor Ilian Mihov is Dean at INSEAD. He joins us now, and since 2013, when he was appointed Dean, some 90 new scholarships, we understand, have been created. Ilian, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Michelle.
So I was interested to hear that you yourself were a scholarship recipient. I wonder if we could start with a personal. Can you share your own experience about how receiving a scholarship allowed you to leave Bulgaria and study in the US?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be at INSEAD without scholarships. I started my education in Bulgaria, university education in 1987. And when the Berlin Wall came down in 1989 and we could travel, there was this opportunity to go to the University of South Carolina and complete my bachelor's degree for 2 years. It was fully financed, the tuition waiver, but also additional scholarship money were secured through several channels. In this case, actually, it was USAID. It was a governmental scholarship from the United States that allowed me to do that. And then I went to do my PhD at Princeton, and again, full tuition waiver, fellowship, and which
How
allowed
did
me
that happen? How did the scholarship to Princeton happen?
Well, I applied, and in fact, when I think about my application, I just shiver because I didn't have money to apply to pay application fees. I had decided to apply to 10 schools or 12 schools because each application cost me like $50, $60. And then on the 5th of December was the deadline for the applications. So I decided on the 4th of December, let me call Princeton and see if they're willing to waive their tuition, their application fee. So I called them, and the assistant at the Department of Economics says, of course, just write a letter. You don't have to pay the application fee. So I wrote a letter. I'm Bulgarian. I don't have money. And they let me apply like this. So I guess they felt sorry for the poor Bulgarian when they decided to admit me. So they gave me full scholarship, and I just applied for it. But again, without scholarships, I wouldn't be here.
That's a wonderful story. And I understand your very first scholarship, you spied it in the newspaper. You came across it in the newspaper?
Yeah. In Bulgaria, there was this ad in actually the communist newspaper, which was still being published from the United States. I think it was run by the U.S. Embassy at the time for 6 Bulgarians to continue their studies at the University of South Carolina, which is just so much luck. I was at a stage, by that time I was 23, 24. So I could not restart my bachelor's degree, right? I cannot go and just apply afresh for a bachelor's degree because I was too old. And there were almost no opportunities to transfer. I even did not know how to do that. So this woman, Glenda Buns from the University of South Carolina, decided as soon as the Berlin Wall came down, she applied for this funding from the US government for 6 Bulgarians to study in the US. They thought that actually it's an important way of transforming the region, which I think that I completely agree.
That is so fascinating. And sitting where you are now as Dean of INSEAD, what are your thoughts on whether or not higher education can impact income inequality on a global scale?
Yeah, I think that income inequality has become one of the big issues in the world in the last 20, 30 years. We have seen across countries, income inequality is decreasing. So if we measure income per capita, average income per capita for each country, and then we put all the countries together, we know that income inequality has decreased because of the growth in China, in India, and many other emerging economies. But within each one of these countries, when you measure inequality within the US or within China, within any of these countries, income inequality has gone up tremendously. And I strongly believe that there are many different ways to tackle this problem. But the key one is to give opportunities to people to educate themselves and to have better earnings opportunities. Because we feel that there are studies that show that people can be stuck within the poverty trap or within a certain economic category, and they cannot progress because they don't have access to education. So scholarships and in general education is probably one of the most important tools to reduce inequality.
We know in some cultures, shall we say, that you see rich families, the bulk of the recipients of scholarships, because it's almost a status symbol, to say my son or my daughter is on scholarship to this Ivy League university. What is your belief on who scholarships are for? I mean, there is a debate, right? Do business schools, in their drive for the best, look at merit, or should we be looking at financial need?
I think that financial need is the key priority, but it is impossible to eliminate or to even reduce the merit scholarships, because the schools are fighting, the universities are fighting for the best talent. And even if people have money and they can afford, they just want the talent. So they offer scholarships in order to attract them. I've been saying this now for, I would say, 8 years since I was appointed as a dean, that in today's world, every dean of a business school understands one very important lesson, and that is the reputation of the school in the long run is the reputation of the alumni. And if you have the right students at school, you'll have the right alumni. I mean, right meaning the more diverse group, but also the ones who are more promising or have better potential. So that's why people will be fighting, and they are fighting. Deans are fighting for students with scholarships. So merit scholarships will continue existing, but what we see today is that there is a category of a financial need and merit scholarship at the same time. There are students who are brilliant and don't have access to funds. And I would say we do prioritize financial need. We do have some merit scholarships, but it's not. I would say that almost 95% will be financial need scholarships.
So I understand in 2021, INSEAD, the Singapore scholarship was established, and it covers up to $30,000 of tuition fees for your master's in management, MBA, executive MBA, executive master in finance programs. And that so far, 24 Singaporean and permanent residents have been awarded the scholarship. That's wonderful. But when you look at a whole, where do your scholarship recipients come from? And how do your scholarship programs enable diversity?
Well, first on the Singapore scholarship, I think for us it is. It is very important that we contribute to the society here. We're based in Singapore. We're part of the ecosystem. We're part of this country. So we created this scholarship in order to facilitate the development, the talent development in the country. So these scholarships apply not only, they can apply for any program, not only the master's programs, but also for executive education. Again, the main objective is we are here, we are one of the top business schools in the world, and we hope that the Singaporean community will actually use this, to develop and the skills of the workforce. Now, in terms of the scholarships, where they scholarship recipients, where they come from, we are, we're the most diverse business school in the world. We have 94 nationalities on campus today, And most of the time, of course, the scholarship recipients are coming from poor countries. We have a lot of scholarships for students coming from Africa, students coming from China, from Southeast Asia, from India. But of course, we have also scholarships for Europeans, because we should not assume that just because people grew up in a rich country that they're rich. And in fact, we have a couple of scholarships specifically for students from the French banlieue, from the outskirts, and especially the areas where that they're not very well developed. They're not. There's a lot of crime there. There's high unemployment. So students with this kind of background, also we have a couple of scholarships for them. So overall, scholarship recipients are coming from all over the world, but predominantly developing countries.
Why is business school so expensive? I've checked out an MBA, 350,000 for 1 year. Ilian, why is business school so expensive?
350,000 for 1 year. I don't know what this school is. It's not INSEAD for sure. So the tuition. So I think at 350,000 will be for the whole MBA, US dollars. But I think that and that includes also living expenses and probably the opportunity cost. Tuition is about in the US is about 70,000 per year, so for 2 years. At INSEAD, it is now 90,000 euros, but it's 1 year. And then, of course, the living expenses are for 1 year and so on. Now, INSEAD, I can talk about INSEAD. I cannot tell you about other schools. But
it's not 350,000 for 1 year?
No.
Okay.
It's not, definitely not. No, it's the tuition is 90,000, and again, depending on where people live, where in Fontainebleau or here, there is the living expenses can be 20,000, 30,000 a year, depending again where they live and how much they spend. So overall, I think that for INSEAD it will be 120,000 euros. Probably what is needed around that level in order to do the MBA. Why is it so expensive? I mean, 90,000 is still a big number, in terms of for the tuition. But we are price takers, so our tuition fees pay for basically teaching costs and running the school, and we look at where the US is, how they price, the top US schools, how they price their MBA, and we price the MBA, the total MBA tuition is at a discount of about 80%, so relatively 80% of the US tuition. So if you look at the US, about 120,000 euros, then we'll be at 80% of that level. Now, in terms of why prices have increased, well, because the costs have increased. I mean, we're a not-for-profit organization, so even if we generate a surplus in a given year, this surplus goes back into the school in order to invest or in order to actually provide more scholarships. Sometimes some of the scholarships are funded by the school to attract students, and the costs in terms of salaries in the US for professors have been going up significantly. When we hire professors, we have to offer them competitive packages like the ones that will be offered by Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Columbia. We cannot offer below that because then people will not come. And that's the biggest cost. And it's the staff salaries have been increasing, especially as you know, here in Singapore, there is a very tight labor market. So again, the tuition fees increase not because we want to generate a profit or bigger surplus. Our salaries actually are controlled by the board. So the board oversees, compares our salaries to the ones in the US on average, and we make sure that we're aligned with that. So.
Okay, let's give the listeners some sense of hope of what can be achieved. Can you share some of the core types of scholarships that INSEAD offers?
So here again, because we're in Singapore, for Singaporeans and PRs, we have a whole range of scholarships for all programs. If you want to study at INSEAD, you can probably access some of these scholarships. We are actually an institution with private character, which means that the donations to this fund are tax deductible. I think that the tuition, I think that sometimes the scholarship, if the need is really there, can go above 30,000. So I would say if we have a candidate who is good and who really needs the funding, we'll go beyond that. We have a lot of scholarships for diversity. Again, we believe that diversity is a cornerstone of innovation, creativity, of having a better environment in the school. So we have many diversity scholarships. We have a lot of scholarships for women. So this part of diversity, we have been increasing these scholarships significantly in the last few years as part of our campaign. And the main reason is that we see that sometimes to study at INSEAD, but also to other business schools, students will take a loan. And sometimes the loans will be, significant, 60,000 euros or 100,000 Sing dollars. And we also see that sometimes in some countries in particular, female applicants are less willing to take this financial risk because, again, you're taking a financial risk that later you have to repay the loan, which then reduces the number of applications. So the only way that we can attract more women to apply is to give a little bit more sense of security that this is going to work. But also, I think that it is our duty, our responsibility as a business school to provide talent to companies. People are complaining there are not enough women on boards, there are not enough CEOs. Female CEOs, but if there are not enough MBA students, then you cannot expect to see senior executives. So that's why we feel that it is our responsibility to provide more female MBA students to the market. So we have all range of diversity scholarships. We have some scholarships because of the donors' requests are targeting certain nationalities, so they believe that there's certain underrepresentation of certain country. We try not to take too many of these donations because then they become too restrictive and we cannot actually use the scholarship. Again, for us, Singapore is different because we are here and we feel that we want to contribute to the development of the nation.
Well, how do you see higher education moving in this drive for diversity through the provision of scholarships? Is INSEAD an outlier, or are most institutions, business schools, moving in this direction in a big way?
I think that everybody is trying to move in that direction. We are actually, I would say that we started a little bit late, so our funds are lower than what we would like them to be. But everywhere around the world, schools, universities are raising money for scholarships because, again, as I said, that the talent that you attract will determine the reputation of the university and the school going forward, because this will be the people who, if somebody goes and reads about an INSEAD alumnus or alumna who created a company, who is leading a company, who is doing something really good for the society, for the environment, for businesses, for growth, then they say, well, I want to be part of that institution. If I do my MBA at INSEAD, I may have actually a similar career. So that's why I think that everybody is now going into serious fundraising for scholarships.
They carry the flag. Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
Because I think that for scholarships, we organized dinners for the donors to meet the scholarship recipients. And it's just such an amazing event. when the donor, and some of them give significant amounts of money, in the millions, but when they see the recipient and how they change lives, I remember the last dinner there was this Indonesian student who was in Fontainebleau studying there, and who had absolutely no opportunity without the scholarship. He received full scholarship, and the donor, how they felt. Actually, they were a couple. It's incredible. I can tell you my own story, how I participated in a dinner like this at Princeton, and had to explain what my research was on, and sitting with these people around the table who actually made it possible for me to study. They had given the money for the scholarship that I was receiving. I think at the end of the day, as a donor, this is probably the most rewarding thing that you can see, how you're changing somebody's life in a very big and impactful way.
Just remarkable. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us, and for sharing what INSEAD is doing to provide opportunities. Professor Ilian Mihov is Dean of INSEAD. You're listening to Money and Me, the news straight ahead. Stay with us.
Money FM 89.